Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sports Talk with Newton. In case you haven't figured it out already, I'm Newton. If you just finished watching Brazil against Croatia, you saw Brazil beat Croatia 3-1 in the opening match of the World Cup. Our first poll question of this show is live. Very simple. Who will win Game 4 of the NBA Finals, Spurs or the Heat? Go ahead and place your votes. There will be many more poll questions to come as we preview what could be a momentum-swinging game in the NBA Finals. Let's jump straight into it. Let's go ahead and take a look at Game 3 and its statistics. Very alarming stats. We're going to look at very alarming stats. When you went back in the box score, you took a second look, you went, huh? Really? The only Spurs players with a negative plus-minus, and a plus-minus is basically how your team does as far as scoring when you're on the court. The only players for the Spurs that were in, and the score actually was less than Miami's score, were Matt Bonner and Marco Bellinelli. Everybody else had a positive plus-minus ratio. The only Heat player to not have a negative plus-minus ratio or have an even ratio was James Jones. James Jones. Let that sink in. Not LeBron, not Wade, not Chalmers, not Bosh, not Allen. James Jones had a +4 ratio. Mario Chalmers very close with a -2 ratio. Turnovers. The stat everyone wants to talk about, might as well reiterate it. LeBron had 7. Wade had 5. Ray Allen and Mario Chalmers only had 3. The only Spurs player to have more than 3 turnovers, Tim Duncan, with 4. Turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. It's very simple. It doesn't matter what age, if it's U8 play, if it's middle school, high school, college, even professional. Turnovers win games. Of course, not turning it over, having less turnovers. A huge, huge margin for what you would call your star players. LeBron with 7, Wade with 5, Allen and Chalmers with 3, Tim Duncan with 4. Shooting. Points were at a premium last game. And if you watch Game 3, you know that is a lie. Points are definitely not a premium. High scoring affair. Just how we like it in the finals. Your only 3-point shooters with more than 3+ makes. For Miami, Rashad Lewis went 4 for 5, and Kawhi Leonard of San Antonio went 3 for 6. Not bad, but since Kawhi Leonard had 29 points, it's pretty great. Here's something for both teams. A big negative for both teams, but it obviously didn't have any impact because it all equaled out. No player, not one player on either team, had more than 2 offensive rebounds in the entire game. For either team. Not one. Not one player. Not a bench scrub, not a starter, not a role player. Nobody had more than 2 offensive rebounds for the entire 48 minutes. No one. The team that will win Game 4 will have fewer turnovers and more offensive rebounds. Fast break points. Very few of them, only 16 in all. However, San Antonio had 12 of those 16, leaving Miami with only 4. San Antonio tripled Miami's fast break points, but not many of those were scored. Their closest Heat deficit after the first quarter was when San Antonio led 90-80 with 7:56 remaining. The Miami crowd got on its feet when they cut it to a 10-point lead. Coach Greg Popovich of the Spurs took a timeout, and that would be it. It would get no closer than 10. They say everyone in the NBA makes a run. And sure, they did make a run. Miami made a run, but it wasn't as significant a run as the Spurs had in the first quarter. They took such a huge lead. And normally you think, oh, well, the Heat will get it back. It's the finals of the 2-time defending champs, back-to-back. That'd be 3, some people think. But they never came back. They only came back within 10 points one time. Only once. If Miami wants to win Game 4, they either have to have a much more dominant first quarter than they did, or they got to cut into the lead much quicker. They were way too slow in the first quarter. I don't think they were prepared for Kawhi Leonard like they did in the previous 2 games. But in Game 3, it seemed like he was shocking the Heat. They didn't do enough once they figured out that it was going to be his night to get hot. Sure, they may have double-teamed him for a few possessions, but that's not really much. And the guy that went up against Kawhi Leonard most of the time, LeBron James. There are a bunch of possessions where LeBron was scoring on Kawhi, and then Kawhi would come down and score on LeBron. Back and forth, just how we like to see it. But for the Heat, you just can't let the star players play the star players. It doesn't have to be James guarding Kawhi every time. And Kawhi didn't have to guard James every time. James had a good game. LeBron had a good game. 22 points. Dwayne Wade also had 22 points. Only Heat players to score more than 20. Kawhi Leonard was the only player in the Spurs to score more than 15. But LeBron was a minus 21. That is the worst ratio on Miami. The absolute worst. I don't know. Some people say, why are you talking about plus minus so much? This isn't hockey. But it matters. Of course, LeBron is undoubtedly the best player in this series. There's no doubt about that one. LeBron is clearly the best player in this series. But he had a bad ratio. Didn't have a great game. He had a good game. He had a very good game. 22 points. But a negative 22? Minus 22? That means when LeBron was on the court. When LeBron was on the court. Anytime. And that's 40 of the 48 minutes in the game. The Spurs outscored the Heat by 22 points. Let that sink in. 22 points. It's not very good. It's really not. I don't know how else to put that. Let's be real. LeBron did get into some foul trouble. He had 5 total. A few of them came very late, so it wasn't too much of a terrible thing. Last big statistic for Game 3 before we talk about Game 4. 90 of the 203 total points scored were in the paint. That's 44%. It's a pretty reasonable, respectable margin. That's a large percentage of the points. 44% of the points scored in Game 3 were scored in the paint. Go ahead and vote on our poll question if you haven't done so already. Let's take a look at that right now, how the poll question is doing. It looks like Miami has 100% of the votes. Now, let's look at this new poll question. What will be the end result of the series? And when I ask you this, I'm going to mean it like this. Are you going to say Spurs in 5? 5 games? That means we'll win it 4-1. That means we'll win the next 2 and be done with it. Or Spurs in 6? Spurs in 7? Or are you going to say Heat in 6? Or Heat in 7? Go ahead and enjoy that poll question. Please vote. Tell your friends. Click that follow button above if you haven't done so already. Make that orange button go green. U.S. Open, in case you're interested in golf, Martin Kaymer shot a 65 to be 5 under in Pinehurst, North Carolina, as the 114th U.S. Open, drawing to a close on day 1. But let's get into Game 4. That was Game 3. That was the past. That was 2 nights ago. What's going to happen tonight? As you know, it's a 2-2-1-1-1 format. We've had the first 2 games in San Antonio. This is the last game in Miami before it goes back to San Antonio. Then it's coming back to Miami. It's coming back. I guarantee it. But only if the Spurs don't win the next 2 games. You win 4, that's it. Just like hockey, best of 7. Very simple. You win 4 games, win the series. No need to play anymore. The Heat, after coming off a loss in the playoffs, have typically been very strong. Very strong. We saw the Heat last year lose in Game 1, which they did in this series, and they would come back to beat the Spurs. And now, very, very famous Game 6, which was the momentum swing that would give the Heat the win in Game 7. But it's no longer a 2-3-2 format like it was last year. Again, it's a 2-2-1-1-1 format, and that is the home games. That's what I mean. So we saw the 2 home games in San Antonio. We'll have 2 games in Miami. And this will continue until the winner's determined. Very simple. Looks like the poll questions results, Spurs in 7 have the lead right now. Y'all think the Spurs will win in 7 games at the moment? In the NBA Finals, Tim Duncan, he's been a very huge difference maker. Set 17.7 points per game and 10.3 rebounds per game. But he had 4 turnovers. So he's got to cut down those turnovers. Got to cut down those turnovers. I know y'all like shooting, so let's talk about shooting. San Antonio, correct me if I'm wrong, folks. Go ahead and type this in the comments if I'm wrong. I believe they shot 76% from the field in the first half. In the first half. First 24 minutes. 76%. I believe that set a playoffs record or an NBA Finals record. It's 76%. That's better than 3 out of 4. I would love to hit 3 out of 4 shots during the game. That'd be great. But they did it for a half. An entire half. Whew. Remarkable stuff from the Spurs. Kawhi Leonard with 29 points. LeBron, Wade each with 22. Chris Bosh only having 9 points. Wow, Chris Bosh. Here's an alarming stat. Chris Bosh made every shot he took in Game 3. Every single one. 4 for 4, including 1 3. Had no offensive rebounds. 3 rebounds total. And he had no turnovers. Do you want to hear the stats that hurt him? He had 4 fouls, and he was a minus 18 player when on the court. Minus 18. That's second worst in the game. And also the second worst on the Heat. LeBron James, minus 21. Chris Bosh, not much better, with minus 18. But he made every shot he took. Didn't miss one. Didn't miss one. 4 for 4. Rashad Lewis shot well, 5 for 7. LeBron shot well, 9 for 14. Dwayne Wade shot 8 for 12. It's pretty great. Guess which starter didn't shoot well? Mario Chalmers. Didn't make a shot from the field. 2 for 2 free throws. 0 for 5 from the field. 0 for 3 from three-point land. Not one shot from the field. And if you play 22 minutes, you better make a shot from the field. Chris Anderson, same way. Chris Anderson's only points came from free throws. 3 out of 4 from free throws. Only took 1 shot from the field. Didn't make one. If you play 20 minutes, I would hope you would find a way to get enough touches to shoot more than 1 shot. 20 minutes. Significant chunk of minutes. Ray Allen, 3 for 8. Not real great, but he made all his free throws. Free throws actually improved in Game 3 from Game 2. Spurs shot 81.3% on free throws. Miami 75%. Offensive rebound. I cannot get over this offensive rebound stats. Each team only had 5 offensive rebounds in Game 3. Only 5 each. No player had more than 2. If it's the NBA Finals, you've got to crash offensive glass more. Maybe some say, well, the defense is boxing out really well. No, they're not. They're really not. Watch the games. Pay attention to the little things like boxing out. See who doesn't hit anybody. Who doesn't touch anybody. How many people just look at the ball? More than you think. A lot of people don't box out the way they should in the NBA Finals. Feel free to comment below. Vote in our poll question. Spurs and Steven still has the lead. I'll take any questions from the comments as they appear. Gosh, they've got to crash the offensive rebounds. Assists. LeBron was the facilitator for Miami at 7 assists. That is a game high. Chalmers had 4 assists, 3 turnovers. LeBron, 7 assists, 7 turnovers. 7 turnovers. Not good. Not good. Minus 21, 7 turnovers. But he shot well. And he played more than anybody else in the game. More minutes, that is. A lot of positives for LeBron, a lot of negatives for LeBron in Game 3. I'm sure he'll look to change that. He'll be criticized a lot in some areas, but he probably won't get enough praise for the work he did in Game 3. I don't know, the media seems very negative in this series. Can't answer you why. It's going to be such an exciting game tonight. The reason it's going to be so exciting is because Miami rebounds so well. Maybe not necessarily in the games, but rebounds from a loss so well. After losing in the finals, we've seen them bounce back. They've already done it in this series. The Heat have not lost consecutive games in a playoff series in who knows how long. Sure, they took out the Bobcats in round 1. Looked pretty strong, but this is the finals. This is the finals. You can't have players having plus-minus ratios like minus 21 and minus 18 as James and Bias did respectively. Only one Spurs player was negative. Only 2, actually. Only 2. Only one guard was negative, and that was Bellinelli. My father, very brilliant basketball mind. He's a pretty good player in college as well. Was criticizing Bellinelli offensively and defensively. Coach Greg Popovich only allowed him to play 6 minutes, shooting 1 for 1 from 3, 0 for 2 inside the arc. Only 1 rebound, no assists, no turnovers. -4 ratio. Not bad, but that's really not great. I'm trying to be nice to the guy since my dad criticized him, but those really aren't great numbers to back him up. Another thing that really doesn't matter, but it was really surprising, when the benches were empty late in the 4th quarter for the last less than, I don't know, I want to say 100 seconds, 110 seconds. It was much less than 2 minutes. No one stood out. None of those really far back bench players decided to step up. None of them were like, all right, this is my time to shine. Those players had to own those minutes. Because I believe that tonight in Game 4, a bench player deeper on the bench than you probably should be in the NBA Finals if you really want to play and have a huge impact. One of those players is going to make a big move tonight. A big move. And have an actual impact on this game. Somebody's going to change something tonight in Game 4. that you wouldn't normally think would play. Thiago Splitter, we saw him play really well in Game 1. Really well in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think. He was plus 11. Now, for his team, that's not great. But he took smart shots. He didn't take very many. Only took 3 shots. Made 2 of them. Smart shot selection in his 16 minutes out there. That's not many more shots than Chris Andersen. It's only 2 more shots than Chris Andersen, and he had less free throws. But he still got more touches than Chris Birdman Andersen. Oh, and some of you were like, yeah, oh, Birdman, that's Chris Andersen. And I was like, who's Chris Andersen? It's Birdman. Yeah, that guy. The guy who, after winning last year's NBA Finals, said he was a crazy bleep white boy. Crazy bleep white boy. I'll let you figure out what the bleep was by yourself. I think the Heat will bounce back tonight. I really do. I really think the Heat will bounce back tonight. I'm about to pick them. I'm about to pick them to win. But a part of me is saying no. And that part of me is the analytical numbers side. The good thing that Miami can take away from a LeBron perspective is that he had 5 steals. Miami only had 8 steals. He had 5 of the Miami 8 steals. The only other player in the game to have 5 steals, Danny Green. Golly day, does Danny Green come alive in the NBA Finals. He loves NBA Finals. Danny Green, I think he feeds off energy. I just think he feeds off the moment. 21 minutes, 7 for 8 shooting. That's pretty great. Only having 1 miss. 1 for 2 from 3. But missed all his free throws. Missed all of his free throws. Every single one of them. 15 points. 21 minutes, 15 points. If you can play 15 minutes and score 21 points, that's 0.71 points per minute. If you're that efficient to score 0.71 points per minute, you're going to play. Your coach will play you if you score 0.71 points per minute. It's pretty significant. That's very significant. Because you get either 1 or 2 trips down court every minute, unless it's a fast break. You are not going to be the one that shoots every possession. You're not. Not every possession. And you still find a way to score 0.71 points per minute? You're doing something. You are doing something. Look at a poll question. Spurs and 6 as a vote. Spurs and 7 as a vote. I'm sorry. It's much more than 1 vote each. Oh, it's just 50%. 50%, yes. It's only 2 with a vote, is what I was trying to say. Make sure you follow us. Make that orange button green. Who's excited? Who's really excited? We'll now take any questions from the comments. This is the time for you to ask questions and us to answer. Type away any questions for us to answer. This will be the last segment of our show. We've got about 5 minutes left before we wrap things up. Greg Popovich is doing a really good job shifting around his lineup. People criticize him for changing the starters too much. Some think that once you have a good starting 5, to keep it like it is for as long as you possibly can. But just because you start 5 doesn't mean that those have to be the 5 that play the most minutes. Look at Danny Green. He did start, but he only played 21 minutes. I say only, but Manu Ginobili played 27 from a non-starting role. The only player to score more points than a starter is Manu Ginobili. He had 11 points. Boris D only had 9. The difference maker if you saw Game 3, you saw Boris Diaw make some amazing passes. Some really smart passes. And for a big power forward like him, making those passes the way that he does, absolutely fantastic. It was really efficient too. Very efficient. Plus 20. Plus 20. When he was on the floor, the Spurs had 20 more points than the Heat. 20. That's the highest in Game 3. Plus 20. He's so efficient with the basketball. So efficient. He made half of his shots, half of his free throws, 50% all around, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block, 2 turnovers. Plus 20. Plus 20. Phenomenal stuff from Boris Diaw. Very efficient with the basketball in Game 3. Miami Heat, when trailing 2-1 since the 2011 playoffs, they beat the Pacers in the 2012 second round in 6 games. And we all know what happened in last year's NBA Finals, beating the Spurs in 7 when trailing 2-1. So, like I said, the Heat have been in this position before. They've been in this position before. But this is a different group. It's a very similar group. Very similar teams to last year. But they're acting different. The Spurs playing half with redemption and another with ferocity. Some of them really don't care about what happened last year. But you know they all do inside. You know they're all thinking about it. They might not say it to the media, but they're all thinking it. Saw the rope come out in Game 6. Thought that the Larry O'Brien trophy was going back to Texas. But it wasn't. It wasn't to be. To quote Dane Levitard, who's definitely a Miami Heat fan, "You lost the shoe." No, he said, "We lost the shoe. You lost the game. We lost the shoe. You lost the series," he said. He's right. The San Antonio Spurs were outplayed last year. But right now it's the Miami Heat who are getting outplayed this year. And I will end in Game 4. I think the winner of Game 5 wins the series. Did I say 5? Yes, I did. Winner of Game 5 wins the series. That's in San Antonio. If San Antonio can go up 3-2, like they did last year, but they can win Game 5, which is in San Antonio, and go up 3-2, I don't think they'll blow it again. They didn't really blow it, but it feels that way. Being up so late in the fourth quarter and allowing that Ray Allen 3, among other major mistakes. I don't think they'll let that happen again. I don't think lightning can strike twice. Am I saying Ray Allen can't hit a clutch 3? No, of course he can hit a clutch 3. But it won't happen in that manner like it did last year. The winner of Game 5 wins the series. That's my bold prediction of the night. You heard it here first. And why is that prediction bold? Because it's 2 nights in advance. Game 4, tonight in Miami. Game 5 in San Antonio on Saturday. Final check of the poll question. What will be the end result of the series? 100% of you say the Spurs will win the series. Half of you say it will be in 6 games. The other half say it will be in 7 games. This has been the NBA Finals Game 4 preview show on Sports Talk with Newton. I'm Newton. Stay with us throughout the FIFA World Cup. Stay with us for sports of all shapes and sizes and nationalities. Arena football, Australian football, horse racing, rugby league, rugby union, Stanley Cup final, Wimbledon championships of lawn tennis. And if you'd like to request a sport or request something for a show, go and email us or just drop us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or of course Ustream. It's going to be a great game tonight. I'm going to make my firm prediction. I'm going to say tonight it's going to be Miami in a close one. I'm picking Miami. I'm still picking the Spurs to win the series. Miami tonight, but Spurs in the series. And in that what matters, whoever wins the best of 7. I'm Newton. Keep balling and keep working hard at whatever it is you do. The NBA Finals Game 4 tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.